The Seder. We are holding in Menachos Daf Chav Gimel. We're starting the 2 dots, 3 lines to the top. So the Gemara Itmar Koimetz the Minchas Choite Sheshomnoi. So if you have a Koimetz Minchas Choite, then you put it into oil. You put oil into it. Not supposed to put oil in Minchas Choite. Birchenomer Apostle. When it says Apostle, this Koimetz itself, you should put it into leftover oil. It's not supposed to be mixed with oil. But if you have oil, right, but if there is oil from another korban, you should dub it into the oil of another korban, another mincha.
This is not talking you put the oil on the surface. This is after you took the meat. So.
Yeah, the Meshach Shecho, yes.
I think Kula Alma would hold.
Yes, that's correct. You're right. Saying what is not to put oil. Don't have oil kavua, meant for the mincha, but you could put oil over there. Who said don't put oil? It makes it possible. As Shlokish, charev is dry mincha that doesn't have oil in it. That is one that does have oil in it. Yakriv is makriv mizbeach. We know lo yakriv. So if you don't lo yakriv because min oil bottle, but no, the min is bottle. You say that it's okay. My love, now Rashi said even according to Rabbanon they say because it's min bottle. But lula is that what you say that even they should not have oil. According to the beauty that's not bottle, you say it's a problem. So you see that's a psul. Says the Gemara, my love, because minchas choite, the other because minchas adova, look minchas porim ve'elim, minchas kvasim. We're not talking about choite. Choite nechanami, maybe it's absolute. Here we're talking about that you talk mincha of a porim ve'elim and mincha of a kvasim. What's the din? Rashi explains that mincha of porim ve'elim is less oily in comparison to minchas kvasim. Why? Because minchas kvasim you put 3 lug per isaret. 1 isaret, 3 lug. By the parim, you put in 3 isaretim and 6 lug. So you have 2 lug per isaret. So it's only 2/3 of oil that you have in the kvasim. So therefore, says the Gemara, that's why it needs to be a little bit. It's dry. And that's what it says, that it's you have a product with the beauty. We have that case. Minchas porim ve'elim, minchas kvasim, v'chor shisar v'bol. Not just 2 different cases. One of them is minchas choite. So the Gemara yikar, Rabbi Doim early yikar, push kam farshlo. No, it's enechanami. Talk about only that case. The case of minchas choite is enechanami will be okay. What happens if you took koimetz that does have oil in it, and he squeezed the oil out and put it on the wood? So Rashi in his first explanation says, we're talking about that you have the koimetz on top of the wood, you put the oil. And on top of the oil, you put the koimetz. So the koimetz is touching the oil. Do you say that connection is good enough? Or it needs to be mixed with the mincha? That's one explanation of Rashi. The other explanation of Rashi is that we're talking about, he says, where's the second explanation? He brings over here. Yeah, so he says like this. Do you put the 8 seam together on the mizbech? Mi bay laktir 8 seam on the koimetz. Do you say that the oil on the wood requires you to put the wood on the mizbech? That's the question. Today's because another explanation. The shaila is over here that you say chibur oil nothing connected, which is not really part of it. Does it connect or not? They discussed. The Idmar is starting to say Zvachim. Hamale Aver Shein B'Kazais Ve'etzav V'Shu B'Kazais. You have Aver. Does have Kazais. The bone makes a Kazais. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the bone is part of the limb. It's the same idea. Do you say the oil is part of the mincha, like the bone is part of the carbon? So no, it's not the same thing. Bone is part of the meat. They grew up together, so that's why it's part of it. Alright, the lamina, the carbon too. It's two different things. The bone is something which could be separate. As we learned there in Sechet Zvachim, if the bone separates from the meat, you don't put it back on the mizbech. That's supposed to be separated. Meaning, and in addition, if you got out, you have to put it back in. So it's still connected. That's we're not so sure. Do you compare the oil to the bone or not? I think we're still to the taker. So you have two menachos that were not, there was no kvitza done to them. And they're mixed together. So in other words, if they're not fully mixed, you have a little bit of piece of the first one on its own, and a little piece of the second one on its own. You can do kvitza from each one. The din is sheiros. Why? Because he didn't do kvitza. And every mincha he didn't do kvitza is a problem. If you have a kvitza, don't put it in his bag. You're not supposed to put the mincha in his bag. If you did put it in his bag, the one that was kvitza in it, even though it's mixed, oil why? Because as long as you did kvitza, put it in his bag, good enough. So the one there was no kvitza in it. So what is only shiraim? Because it's not shiraim, it's mincha. There's no kvitza. If you didn't do kvitza, you don't have mincha. What happens if the kvitza got mixed up with the leftover shiraim? So you did kvitza and then it got mixed up. Lo yaktir, don't put it in his bag. You're not supposed to put shiraim on his bag. If he was maktir, put it on the bag. It does work. Why? Because the kvitza was done. And as long as the kvitza was done, even though it's still mixed up, it's going to be okay. But if there was no kvitza, then it does not work. Zok the Gemara. We say that if you have, now let's focus over here for a moment. Nevelo is a dead animal. Got mixed up with shchuta, which means the majority is shchuta, and the nevelo is a minority. As Rashi points out, we're talking about pieces. You have 2 pieces of shchuta, 1 piece of nevelo. I know there's 2 of shchuta. One of you, I don't know which one is which. They got mixed up. You say it's butter. Why? It's a tumor. Exactly. What we're going to talk about, if you touched it, it will become tumor or not. So you say the nevelo is butter. Why? The shchuta. So b'achila, you have to have at least 60 to do it. Here we talk about legabe tumor. And I was discussing in the morning when I learned it, this idea that nevelo can become shchuta, is that true legabe achila? Or it's only gabe tumor?
It's totally, there's a side to say that it's totally decomposed, you can eat it.
I don't know. Not sure. I mean, there is such a thing when you have botel b'shishim. You do see botel b'shishim. But maybe it's chaticha or it's kabel, you don't say it.
Botel b'shishim, you don't need it to begin, then you don't need to become decomposed.
You do, because it should be min b'minoi. That was decomposed. We're not talking about decomposed right now. We're talking about just min b'minoi. The double to the sugi is like this. Min bin min boy, if we're speaking about Abuda, as the one's going to explain, min bin min according to Abuda loy batel. Now, if I have 2 things, they're the same mean, they're not cancelled. But if one is different than the other, then it is cancelled. What needs to be different than what? The majority or the minority? That's the machlekes in the Gemara. Meaning, do I say that if the majority cannot become the minority, so it's different than the minority and it cancels the minority? But if the majority can become the minority, so it doesn't cancel the minority? Or the opposite. If the minority cannot become the majority, so then it could be cancelled. And if it could become the majority, it can be cancelled. So that's the one that's going to bring a case, the minority, cases where the majority could, from one of them could turn to be the other, but not the other. So one brings the first case, nevela and a shchuta. Says the Gemara like this: the shchuto cannot turn to be nevela. When you have an animal that was shechted kedat kedin, the meat is not nevela. It doesn't cost too much. It doesn't matter what you can do. You can flip on your head 30 times, it still won't be nevela. There's no way. But a nevela could lose its tumor when it decomposes. I'm going to say in a moment. So the nevela on its own could stop being nevela. So the nevela could turn to be the din of shchuto. So it says the Gemara. Nevela is bottle in the shchuto. The shchuto is the majority. She if shal the shchuto, she has the nevela because the shchuto can have a nevela. It's not meaning a minor. The shchuto in a betel benevela, but the opposite doesn't work. She if shal nevela, she has the shchuto. Lechi masucho pocho tumoso. When it decomposes, it loses the tumor. So in mele, it becomes like a shchuto for that purpose. So if I have a shchuto mixed in a nevela, you say the majority can turn to a shchuto. That's mean mean ain't no but. The opposite. If it can become like it, so then it is bottle. Meaning the shchuto, if the nevela can become shchuto, so then it will be bottle. If the minority is nevela, the first one don't hold that shchuto ain't never tail of a nevela. Why? Because you say the nevela could become a shchuto, so it's mean minor. And he says the opposite. So called chef shad kamoyu ain't a bottle if the in the case of if the muat could be like the mevatel in a bottle. So the vela in a bottle of a shchuto of a shchuto betel of a nevela, the exact opposite. Because she usually kamoyu bottle. So the more he goes to argue. In other words, the shaila is, do you go based on the majority or the base of the minority? What am I going to focus on? The majority or minority? So the Gemara, Aliba the man. Who are we talking about? You live with that one, Amri, or you leave, who do the vata, that mean butter. Her partner hold the meaning beat is butter. So what's the issue? Yeah, leave that budo, you want to tell me, Kurta budo, oh, that from your own base. You have budo, but the chazuso, ozil, vidi, mino, you. Kurta budo, I don't care about the din, that the shchuta is a veil. I go based on how it looks like. Why do we know that? Because we saw in last half, you're going dam vatal dam. Does it look red? Does it not look red? That's not focusing on. I'm focusing how I look at it. So I don't care what that look. What's it then? This R is not botel. So the more leave it up here. Very good up here. Kai up here nevelo v'shchuto b'teilo zubizu. He holds that they do cancel each other. Up here, I'll leave the man who's up here talking about. So the more say up here himself. Who's he going like? I don't care if you have a bit or not. I don't care if it can be like it or not. Meaning butter. According to Abudo, there's never butter. Similarly, don't leave it at Abudo. What Reb Chia learns Abudo different than what we said before. Before we quoted Abudo going blood, I just care about how it looks like. He says no. I care about the din. If it could be like him, then you say is not butter. It can be like him, but here's the machlekes. The go based on the majority, and the question is, can the majority be like the minority or not? You go based on the minority. Can that be like the other one or not?
What would be the case? What would he say in the case of blood? That was the case where we said Rabbi Yehuda said it's thin.
Right.
It's been it's in a bottle. Blood can't become one blood can't become another blood. It's not.
Right. So Rashi really addresses it. Look at Rashi. Rashi said the kashi gabe domi domi Rabbi Yehuda leilin dam chulin vatal dam kochim. So Bishop Chino, if Shal Kochim Kevatli Kechulin Shekishion Alechod Yotzom Dushos Kechulin. Also by blood it can change it.
Meaning wood rashes and woodworking reference.
Yes. Elav Chizdo Livotel Da If Shal Chulin Kekochim. Fam Mishen Minori. So he says Lav Chizdo Ve'avad Loy Kerabchio. That's the way it's brought down over here. The Shidduch has a different as a different gear.
Meaning the rashes in the case of the dam would not be.
Yeah. He would say so. The Shidduch has a different. He has a different gear. So he's going to say to talk about the opposite case, that there was more blood of the dam kochim was Rabel Shachuli, not the opposite.
Right, so you mean if you say if the dam kachim is more, then you wouldn't get into this.
No, so then you have the same thing. Which one can be like which? She says kochim can be like chulim. Chulim cannot be like kochim.
Kachim is the roy. You wouldn't need to be mevatel. That's the
Right. He explains. Right. It goes on to say different gears, but according to our gears, Rashi, it's going to say that he doesn't agree with it. Says the Gemara, Tran, Shtei Menachos shlonik v'tzugor. Go back to our Mishnah. Have two Menachos, do no kvitzel. Tzar v'zu v'zu im yochel l'kmoitz v'zu v'niatz v'ksheres. V'im la psulos. Right, so you can do kvitz for each one. It's kosher v'danat. V'yochel kevan the komitz le'mechado ido chavel l'shirayim. So if I have these two Menachos, and I could do kvitz from one, I do kvitz from A. What do I have left? Shirayim. Right, so A, I left. Why don't you say the Shirayim is about the Tevel? Why? Because the Tevel could become Shirayim. Shirayim can become Tevel. Tevel could become Shirayim. According to Rabbanon, it should be bottle. Help Shito Rebudo. Which one? No, but bottle linon, bottle havik batel. The bottle, which means the mincha, which is a Tevel, can become like the other one. So it will turn to be like Shirayim. So you say over there that what? It's not bottle. Hello, the Shirayim become Tevel. So now that I established you need to have min is only when one of them can be like the other. How will you explain our Mishnah? Says the Gemara, I'll tell you what our Mishnah does. There's a Ktor in both. Because now we know that oilim in vatim zeh. It's a special gzas that you don't see by Shirayim Bitul. Special thing. And you're right, you always go based on what it can turn to, but here you have that special thing. The one is bringing other price to the Mishnah. Tashwa, another case of our Mishnah, Akayim Chis Arab Mincha, Shaloi Nikritza. If Kayim Chis Arab Mincha, there was no Kritza. Lo Yakti. If you Ktiz Shling Bitzal, Solabayim, is Shling Bitzal, Solabayim. Velo Kamevatilim, Tiv, Lola Kayim, you don't see the Bitul. When you see the Mincha, Shrim Batil, the Kayim. Man, here, but I'm going to do Vata, Dadi, I mean, Minabata, should be Bata. Hello, because it's not oil, it's a Mincha. You could, the Bevata, which was the Mincha, could turn to be like the Koimitz. The Kopur to Chazan every piece of it can become Koimitz. If you have the Min Loy Bata. Amanda Bata Zin, according to the one who's going to be, the one who's supposed to be Batel, Koimitz Vika Avitivla. Okay, Koimitz become Tevel. Koimitz can become Tevel. Let me do a Kabchio. So why now we can't say again? The Yechezkel Kosov. Yechezkel is that it says by Kvitzo you have a Yechezkel Kosov that's not bottle. Touch by another part of the Mishnah. Nisav Koimtzo b'Sharon Shchaverto. Koimtz of one, Nisav b'Sharon the other ones. Lo yakti. Pim yikti also the Bible. They'll do it if it does work. For will have Vatel Kibot. You will look at Vatel Sharon Koimtz. This question according to both, according to Rav Chizda, according to Rav Chanina. Because here, neither the Shirayim can become Koimitz and the Koimitz can become Shirayim. You have a mixture of Koimitz and Shirayim, and you say that what? That's Mimino, but they can't turn to be each other. Mani Rabbanon, it should be cancelled. Here's where the Rabzir says this thing. Koimitz, Shirayim, Koimitz, Shirayim, Shirayim. So again, that's exactly what we mentioned before. It's not bottle. Toshma, another Rayo. Tivlo bekatzach b'shum. We talk about Pesach matzo. He put in it spices, different like sesame katzach, or chomei tavin ksheru. Matzei l'shilikel matzo two bells. Still good matzo. It's a spicy matzo. Because I think obviously tavin ksheru matzo. That meaning was there was more spices than matzo. The matzo could turn to be like the spices. Once it gets it becomes spoiled, it could turn to be like the spices, which it doesn't have a din of matzah. It's not matzah anymore. If you go based on the majority can turn to be a matzah. The Talmud never become matzah. So no, the majority is not the spice. The majority is the matzah. What we say? It's not. We say it's a matzah. It's just called a spicy matzah. Not sure the majority is what is a matzah. So if you go based on the bottle, so it's very good. So you go based on the mevatel. We talk here that the matzah is mevatel the tavlin. Shramino.
The tavlin are not mevatel. What about the fact that there's tavlin there?
You want the tavlin to be bottled to the matzah.
Yeah.
Shal is, mean or not.
Right. So let's say the tavlin are not bottled. Then what? The fact that what's the Gemara's answer is that the matzah is the majority over here. How does that help? If you say the min b'min, if you say it's
because the tavlin could turn to be a matzah, that's min b'min. The tavlin could be a matzah. The matzah could be tavlin. Sorry, the matzah could be tavlin. So because the matzah could be tavlin, it's a min b'min.
And what if you say go bust the and
so the
tavlin can't become matzah?
So then you say the tavlin is majority. If you hold to go based on the majority, we go to tavlin in the Gemara, the majority of the year is tavlin.
Depending on whichever one's the majority, that's what we're going to say whether it's a go bust.
Right. So the Gemara, that's the raya they were talking about this case, because what was even the Havamino. Usually tavlin is not going to be the majority. This will end. Continue from here, Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow night. Very good. Shkeach.
Did you get back this morning?
I got back last night. Took a 5 p.m. flight.